There comes a moment when you wake up from a nightmare and reality feels wrong, not safe, not familiar, almost thinner than the dream you just escaped. Your heart is still racing, your skin still remembers the fear, and for a few terrifying seconds you're not sure which world is real. Most people brush this off as imagination. But what if nightmares don't feel real because they are vivid? What if they feel real because part of you never left them? This is not a story about bad dreams. This is about the moment when your brain stops separating sleep from waking life, when fear no longer needs darkness, when nightmares begin to feel more honest than reality itself. And once that line breaks, it never fully repairs. The human brain treats nightmares differently from normal dreams. During nightmares, the brain's fear center becomes hyperactive while the logic center goes quiet. This means the mind experiences threat without explanation. The body responds exactly as it would in real danger, heart racing, muscles tensing, breath shortening. The brain does not whisper, it screams. That is why nightmares feel real, because the brain believes they are. But there are moments when the nightmare doesn't end after waking. At first, it feels subtle, a lingering heaviness, a sense that something followed you out of sleep. You move through your day, but everything feels slightly delayed, like the world is buffering. Sounds feel distant, faces feel unfamiliar, reality feels rehearsed. This state has a name: dissociation. It happens when the brain struggles to re-anchor itself after intense fear. The mind creates distance to protect itself, but distance comes at a cost. The more you disconnect from reality, the more convincing nightmares become. Because nightmares don't require grounding. They exist entirely inside the brain where fear has full authority. People who experience recurring nightmares often report the same disturbing detail. The dream world feels sharper than waking life. Colors more vivid, emotions more intense, pain more convincing. Reality, by comparison, feels muted. This is not coincidence. During nightmares, the brain releases chemicals designed to keep you alive. Adrenaline, cortisol, noradrenaline. These chemicals heighten awareness and sharpen perception, but when released during sleep, they attach to memory instead of action. The nightmare becomes encoded as experience, not imagination. Is why some nightmares return unchanged for years. Brain does not tag them as dreams. It tags them as events. Over time, the line begins to blur. People start questioning their own memories. Did that happen, or was it a dream? Did I lock the door, or did I dream it? Did I hear something last night, or am I remembering a nightmare? The brain hates uncertainty, so it fills the gaps. This is when nightmares start leaking into waking life. Shadows feel intentional. Silence feels crowded. Reflections feel delayed. You catch yourself listening for sounds that don't exist, watching corners that never move. The brain is scanning for threats it remembers but cannot locate. Sleep becomes dangerous, because sleep is where the nightmares wait. People begin avoiding sleep, believing they are protecting themselves. But sleep deprivation weakens the brain's ability to separate imagination from reality. Hallucinations begin quietly. Peripheral movement, whispered sounds, the sense of being watched. The nightmares grow stronger. Some people report dreaming of the same place repeatedly: a room, a hallway, a house. Each time, it feels familiar, like returning home. This is not fantasy. The brain builds persistent dream environments when fear repeats. It becomes efficient. It doesn't create new nightmares. It reuses old ones. Familiar fear is easier to process than unknown fear. That's why the dream world begins to feel stable, and reality begins to feel unstable. At some point, people stop fearing the nightmares. They start fearing waking up, because waking means confusion, fragmentation, emotional numbness. But inside the nightmare, everything makes sense. The fear has rules. The danger has purpose. The emotions feel real. The brain begins to prefer the nightmare. This is the most dangerous stage, because when fear feels more real than life, the brain stops trying to escape it. It starts adapting to it. Nightmares become longer, more detailed, more controlled. Some people become aware they are dreaming but cannot wake up. The brain traps itself in fear loops, replaying threats without resolution. The body learns helplessness. The mind learns surrender. And then something changes. People begin experiencing dream bleed. Moments where dream imagery appears while awake. A face from a nightmare appearing in reflections. a sound from a dream echoing in silence. The brain is no longer switching modes correctly. Fear is crossing borders. This is not madness. It is overload. The brain was never designed to handle constant threat without release. When nightmares repeat without resolution, the fear center remains active even during the day. The world becomes hostile by default. Trust erodes. Reality feels artificial. Nightmares feel honest. Some neuroscientists believe nightmares serve a purpose to rehearse danger in a controlled environment. But when the environment stops being controlled, rehearsal becomes trauma. The brain cannot distinguish between rehearsal and reality anymore. This is why people who suffer severe nightmares often describe a single terrifying thought. What if I'm still dreaming? That thought alone is enough to destabilize reality. Because if you cannot trust waking life, the brain has nothing solid to anchor to. Fear becomes the only constant, and fear is persuasive. It explains everything. Every sound becomes a warning. Every silence becomes a threat. Every reflection becomes unfamiliar. The brain interprets the world through the language of nightmares, and nightmares always speak in fear. The most disturbing part is that the brain adapts to this state. It normalizes it. What once terrified becomes routine. People stop questioning their fear because fear feels familiar, safe even. Reality feels like the lie. This is how nightmares win, not by being scary but by being consistent. Over time, people report something chilling. They no longer remember falling asleep. They simply arrive in the nightmare, as if sleep is no longer a transition, as if the nightmare is always waiting, because it is. The brain never truly shuts fear down. It only lowers the volume. And when reality feels unreliable, the brain turns fear back up because fear has always been dependable. But nightmares feel more real than life. It's not because life is weak. It's because fear is ancient, and ancient things do not fade easily. Nightmares feel more real than life because the brain treats fear as truth. It records it deeply, protects it fiercely, and replays it endlessly. When fear becomes familiar, reality becomes questionable. And when reality loses meaning, the brain chooses the world that feels most intense. The nightmare doesn't follow you because it wants to hurt you. It follows you because your brain believes it's protecting you. If this story stayed with you longer than expected, that means your brain recognized something real. Fear leaves echoes, and echoes don't fade easily. If you want more stories that explore nightmares, psychology, and the hidden darkness inside the human mind, subscribe and stay close, because some dreams don't end when you wake up, they wait.